Welcome to Stoic Vivu, where ancient wisdom meets modern life. I'm here to help you discover how the timeless teachings of Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus can transform your daily challenges into opportunities for strength and growth. Today, we're exploring something remarkable: how the simple act of moving your body every day can build unshakable mental strength. This isn't just about fitness or exercise routines. This is about understanding a profound truth that the ancient Stoics knew well. When you train your body, you're actually training your mind to handle anything life throws at you. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning feeling completely confident in your ability to face whatever challenges await you. Picture yourself staying calm when everything around you feels chaotic, pushing through difficulties that used to stop you in your tracks, and maintaining focus on what truly matters instead of getting distracted by things beyond your control. This isn't wishful thinking. It's the natural result of applying Stoic principles through daily physical practice. The ancient Stoics understood something we're only now rediscovering in modern science. Your body and mind aren't separate entities. They're deeply connected, and when you strengthen one, you strengthen the other. Marcus Aurelius wasn't just a philosopher sitting in an ivory tower. He was a warrior and athlete who understood that physical discipline creates mental resilience. Seneca practiced wrestling and other demanding physical activities because he knew they built character. Epictetus, despite his physical limitations, emphasized that we must train ourselves to endure hardship voluntarily so we can handle it when life inevitably presents it to us. What makes this approach so powerful is its accessibility. You don't need expensive equipment, gym memberships, or complicated training programs. You don't need to be naturally athletic or already in perfect shape. The beauty of this ancient wisdom is that it works for everyone, regardless of your starting point or current circumstances. Throughout this video, we'll explore 7 transformative principles that connect physical movement to mental strength. You'll discover how one simple daily action can create lifelong resilience, why pushing through discomfort leads to amazing personal breakthroughs, and how focusing on your own progress instead of comparing yourself to others changes everything. We'll uncover the smart way to compete that guarantees you always win. Learn how morning movement sets you up for daily success. Explore the surprising way physical activity solves mental problems, and understand why small daily steps lead to incredible life changes. By the end of our time together, you'll have a clear roadmap for building the kind of mental toughness that allows you to thrive in our fast-paced, often overwhelming modern world. More importantly, you'll understand how to implement these practices starting today, using wisdom that has guided people through challenges for over 2,000 years. The ancient Stoics believed that philosophy without action is worthless. They practiced what they taught, and they expected the same from their students. Today, you're not just learning about Stoicism, you're taking the first step toward living it. 1. How one simple daily action creates lifelong resilience. Consider this scenario. Sarah, a marketing manager in downtown Chicago, stares at her alarm clock showing 5:30 a.m. Her apartment is cold. Her bed is warm, and every fiber of her being wants to hit snooze. She has a presentation today that could make or break her career. Her relationship is going through a rough patch, and her student loans feel overwhelming. The easy choice is to stay under the covers. The Stoic choice is to get up and move. This moment, this exact decision point, is where lifelong resilience begins. Not in some grand gesture or dramatic life change, but in the simple act of choosing difficulty over comfort when everything inside you screams for the easy path. The Roman philosopher Seneca understood this principle deeply. He taught us that we treat the body rigorously so it may not be disobedient to the mind. What he meant was revolutionary. When you train your body to do hard things, you're actually training your mind to overcome resistance in every area of life. That morning, when Sarah chooses to get up, put on her running shoes, and step into the cold Chicago air, she's not just exercising. She's practicing the art of mental dominance. Let's be clear about what this really means. Every single day, you face moments where your body wants one thing and your rational mind knows you should do another. Your body wants to sleep in, eat junk food, avoid difficult conversations, or quit when things get challenging. These aren't character flaws, they're human nature. But here's what the Stoics discovered. You can train yourself to overcome these impulses through consistent physical practice. Think about Marcus Aurelius, who ruled the Roman Empire while dealing with constant warfare, political intrigue, and personal tragedies. His secret wasn't superhuman willpower, it was daily discipline. He wrote in his personal journal, "What were you put on this planet to do? To huddle under the covers and be warm? No, you were put here to work, to do what your nature demands." Every morning, he practiced this philosophy by getting up early and engaging in physical training, despite having every excuse in the world to stay comfortable. This is where modern life becomes your training ground. When you choose to take a walk during your lunch break instead of scrolling social media, you're building the same mental muscle that helps you speak up in a difficult meeting. When you do push-ups in your living room after a long day instead of collapsing on the couch, you're developing the resilience that carries you through family conflicts or financial stress. The beauty of this approach lies in its simplicity. You don't need to run marathons or become a fitness fanatic. The Stoics weren't advocating for extremes. They were teaching practical wisdom. One push-up builds the same mental pattern as 100. One flight of stairs climbed instead of taking the elevator creates the same neural pathway as climbing a mountain. The key is consistency, not intensity. Here's what happens neurologically when you practice this principle. Every time you override your body's immediate desires, you strengthen your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for decision-making, impulse control, and long-term thinking. You're literally rewiring yourself for resilience. Modern neuroscience has proven what the Stoics intuited over 2 millennia ago. Physical discipline creates mental strength. But there's an even deeper truth at work here. When you commit to one simple daily action, whether it's a morning walk, evening stretches, or taking the stairs, you're proving to yourself that you can be trusted. You're building evidence that when you say you'll do something, you actually do it. This self-trust becomes the foundation for tackling bigger challenges in every area of your life. Consider how this plays out in real-world situations. When Sarah faces that career-defining presentation, she doesn't feel overwhelmed because she's already proven to herself that morning that she can do hard things. When relationship difficulties arise, she doesn't immediately want to run away because she's practiced staying present with discomfort during her daily movement practice. When financial stress hits, she doesn't panic because she's cultivated the ability to take one small, positive action even when everything feels overwhelming. The ancient Stoic philosopher Epictetus, who understood suffering intimately, taught that we should voluntarily expose ourselves to difficulty so that involuntary hardship doesn't destroy us. This isn't about seeking pain for its own sake. It's about building capacity. Every morning you choose movement over stagnation, you're making a deposit in your resilience account. The most remarkable thing about this practice is how it transforms your relationship with difficulty itself. Instead of seeing challenges as threats to be avoided, you begin to recognize them as opportunities to practice your strength. That difficult conversation you've been avoiding, it becomes a chance to apply the same mental toughness you've been building through physical practice. That overwhelming project at work, it becomes another opportunity to prove that you don't quit when things get hard. Start small, but start today. Choose one simple physical action, walking around the block, doing 10 jumping jacks, or standing up and sitting down 5 times. Do it every day for a week, especially on days when you don't feel like it. Notice how this small act of self-discipline ripples into other areas of your life. Pay attention to how much easier it becomes to make other difficult but beneficial choices. Ultimately, this principle teaches us that resilience isn't something you're born with or without. It's something you build, one simple daily action at a time. The ancient Stoics knew that strength of character comes from consistent practice, not from grand gestures or perfect conditions. With this foundation established, we can now explore what happens when you've built this daily discipline but face moments when everything inside you wants to quit. 2. The amazing thing that happens when you push through discomfort. Picture this. Michael, a software developer in downtown Seattle, is halfway through his evening run when the rain starts pouring. His shoes are soaked, his shirt is clinging to his skin, and every logical part of his brain is saying, "Just go home." This is the moment when most people turn around. But Michael has learned something powerful from Stoic philosophy. This exact moment of wanting to quit is where transformation actually begins. What happens next will determine not just whether Michael finishes his run, but how he handles every challenging situation for the rest of his week. When his code doesn't compile after hours of debugging, when his manager assigns him an impossible deadline, when his relationship hits a rough patch, his response will be shaped by what he chooses to do right now in the rain. The ancient Roman Stoic Musonius Rufus understood this principle better than anyone. He taught that when you do something weak to get pleasure, the pleasure passes quickly, but the shame sticks around. But when you do something hard, when you push yourself, when you do something that takes strength, the struggle passes quickly, but the virtue and benefits stick around. This isn't just ancient philosophy. It's a fundamental truth about human psychology that modern science has confirmed. When you push through discomfort, your brain literally rewires itself. You're not just building physical endurance. You're developing what psychologists call distress tolerance, the ability to handle difficult emotions and situations without immediately seeking escape. Let's break down what actually happens in that crucial moment when you want to quit. Your brain's limbic system, the primitive part that's focused on immediate comfort and survival, starts flooding you with signals. This is unpleasant. Stop now. Seek comfort. Meanwhile, your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for long-term thinking and values-based decisions, knows that pushing through will serve your greater good. Most people automatically listen to the limbic system. They've trained themselves through years of choosing immediate comfort over long-term benefit. But when you consistently practice pushing through discomfort in small, manageable ways, you strengthen the prefrontal cortex's ability to override those immediate impulses. Here's where it gets truly amazing. The strength transfers to every area of your life. When Michael pushes through those final 20 minutes of running in the rain, he's not just improving his cardiovascular fitness. He's practicing the exact same mental skill he'll need when he's tempted to give up on a difficult project, avoid a challenging conversation with his partner, or quit pursuing a meaningful goal because it requires sustained effort. Marcus Aurelius knew this firsthand. Leading the Roman Empire meant facing constant adversity, military campaigns in harsh conditions, political betrayals, and personal losses. But he had trained for these challenges through daily physical discipline. In his personal writings, he reminds himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." The key insight here is that discomfort is not your enemy. It's your teacher. Every time you feel that urge to quit, to take the easy way out, to choose immediate relief over long-term benefit, you're at a training opportunity. The discomfort isn't a sign that something is wrong. It's a sign that something is working. Consider Sarah, a nurse in Miami who decided to start taking cold showers. The first few seconds are always brutal. Her body screams at her to turn the water to warm. But she's learned to recognize this moment as practice for everything else in her life. When a difficult patient tests her patience, when she's exhausted after a 12-hour shift but needs to study for continuing education, when she faces personal challenges that require sustained effort, she draws on the same strength she's built by staying under that cold water for just 30 more seconds each morning. What's truly remarkable is how this practice changes your relationship with difficulty itself. Instead of seeing challenges as obstacles to your happiness, you begin to recognize them as opportunities to practice your strength. That impossible deadline becomes a chance to apply your persistence. That difficult conversation becomes an opportunity to practice courage. That overwhelming situation becomes a training ground for resilience. The ancient Stoics called this the discipline of desire, learning to want what happens rather than demanding that what you want should happen. When you've practiced pushing through discomfort voluntarily, you develop the capacity to find meaning and growth in involuntary hardships. But here's what makes this truly sustainable. You start small and build gradually. You don't need to run marathons or take ice baths. You can practice this principle by walking up an extra flight of stairs when you're tired, doing 10 more push-ups when your muscles are burning, or holding a plank position for 5 more seconds when your core is shaking. The magic happens in those extra moments, the gap between when you want to stop and when you actually stop. That gap is where character is built. That's where you prove to yourself that you're stronger than your immediate impulses. That's where you develop the kind of mental toughness that allows you to thrive in a world that constantly presents challenges. Seneca put it perfectly, "Every new thing excites the mind, but a great mind also sees new possibilities in every common thing." When you view discomfort as a training opportunity rather than something to avoid, even mundane challenges become chances to strengthen your character. The most beautiful part of this practice is that it compounds. Each time you push through when you want to quit, the next time becomes slightly easier. Not because the discomfort decreases, but because your capacity to handle discomfort increases. You're literally expanding your comfort zone by regularly stepping outside of it. Therefore, the next time you find yourself wanting to quit, whether it's during physical activity, a challenging work project, or any difficult situation, recognize that moment as your greatest opportunity for growth. The struggle will pass, but the strength you build by pushing through will serve you for life. Building on this understanding of how we grow through discomfort, the next crucial element involves learning where to direct this newfound strength. 3. Why focusing on your own progress changes everything. Visualize this. David is at his local gym in Phoenix at 6 a.m., struggling through his workout routine. On the treadmill next to him, someone half his age is effortlessly running at twice his speed. Across the room, a woman is lifting weights that would crush him. His first instinct is familiar and painful comparison, self-doubt, and the creeping feeling that he's failing because he's not measuring up to everyone else around him. This moment represents one of the most destructive patterns in modern life, and it's exactly what the ancient Stoics warned against over 2,000 years ago. But David has learned something that transforms everything. The only race that matters is the one between who he was yesterday and who he is today. Seneca captured this wisdom perfectly when he defined tranquility, the Greek word euthymia, as a sense of being on the path that you're on and not being distracted or misled by the paths that crisscross yours. This isn't just philosophical poetry. It's a practical blueprint for mental peace and sustained progress in every area of life. When you focus on other people's progress instead of your own, you're essentially handing over control of your emotional state to complete strangers. That runner next to David doesn't know about his knee surgery 6 months ago, his demanding work schedule, or the fact that just showing up today represents a major victory over depression. But if David measures his worth by comparison, he'll miss the profound significance of his own journey. Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply. As the most powerful man in the ancient world, he could have spent his time comparing himself to other emperors, other philosophers, other military leaders. Instead, his personal journal reveals a man constantly focused on his own character development. He writes, how much trouble he avoids who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does, but only to what he does himself. This principle becomes revolutionary when applied to physical practice. Consider Jennifer, a teacher in Denver who started walking during her lunch breaks. For weeks, she felt embarrassed because other people at the park were running while she could barely maintain a brisk walk. She was measuring herself against their standards instead of celebrating her own progress from sitting at her desk all day to moving her body for 30 minutes. Everything changed when she shifted her focus. Instead of watching the runners, she started paying attention to her own improvements. Week 1, she could walk for 15 minutes before feeling winded. Week 3, she walked the entire 30 minutes comfortably. Week 6, she added hills to her route. By month 3, she was naturally alternating between walking and light jogging, not because she was trying to match anyone else, but because her body had naturally progressed. This shift in focus creates what psychologists call intrinsic motivation, the drive that comes from internal satisfaction rather than external validation. When your motivation is intrinsic, it becomes sustainable. You don't need other people to fail for you to feel successful. You don't need perfect conditions or ideal circumstances. Your progress becomes independent of everything outside your control. Epictetus, who knew about overcoming limitations better than most, taught his students to compete only in competitions where you are the only participant. This wasn't about avoiding all external competition. It was about understanding that your real competition is with your former self. The only person you need to be better than is who you were yesterday. Here's what this looks like in practical terms. If you walked 2 miles yesterday, walking 2.1 miles today is victory. If you did 5 push-ups last week and you do 6 today, that's progress worth celebrating. If you used to avoid stairs and now you choose them over elevators, you're winning your own race. This approach eliminates one of the biggest barriers to sustained progress: the perfectionism trap. When you're competing with others, there's always someone stronger, faster, or more advanced. This creates a mindset where anything less than being the best feels like failure. But when you're focused on your own progress, every small improvement is meaningful. The ancient Stoics practiced this principle in all areas of life, not just physical training. Seneca didn't measure his wisdom against Socrates or Plato. He measured his growth against his own previous understanding. Marcus Aurelius didn't evaluate his leadership by comparing himself to other emperors. He focused on whether he was governing more justly today than yesterday. This mindset transforms how you handle setbacks too. When David has a day where his workout feels harder than usual, he doesn't see it as falling behind others. He sees it as valuable information about his body's needs. Maybe he needs more rest, better nutrition, or a slightly modified routine. The focus stays on optimization rather than comparison. Social media makes this principle more crucial than ever. Every platform is designed to encourage comparison. Highlight reels of other people's best moments contrasted with your ordinary daily reality. But when you've trained yourself to focus on your own path, these external displays lose their power to disturb your peace. The beautiful paradox is that when you stop trying to keep up with others, you often end up progressing faster. Without the mental energy wasted on comparison and self-doubt, you can direct all your focus toward consistent improvement. Jennifer didn't set out to become a runner. She just committed to her own daily progress, and running naturally emerged. This principle extends far beyond physical activity. When you apply the same focus to your career, relationships, creative pursuits, or personal growth, you discover the freedom that comes from setting your own standards. You become immune to the anxiety that comes from constantly measuring yourself against others. Start by identifying one area where you've been trapped in comparison thinking. Maybe it's fitness, maybe it's professional achievement, maybe it's social media presence. For the next week, deliberately redirect your attention every time you catch yourself comparing. Instead, ask, how can I improve on my own performance from yesterday? Ultimately, this shift in focus reveals a profound truth. Your greatest competition is not with other people, but with your own potential. Every day, you have the opportunity to be slightly better than you were before, and that's a race you can always win. Consequently, this understanding naturally leads us to explore the smartest way to structure this internal competition for guaranteed success. 4. The smart way to compete that guarantees you always win. Here's the scenario. Lisa, an accountant in Atlanta, has been watching her coworkers sign up for corporate fitness challenges all year. There's always some competition who can log the most steps, lose the most weight, or complete the most workouts. She's avoided joining because she knows she won't win. She's not the fastest, strongest, or most naturally athletic person in her office. But Lisa has discovered something that changes everything. There's a type of competition where victory is guaranteed, and it has nothing to do with beating other people. This revelation comes directly from the ancient Stoic philosopher Epictetus, who taught his students, if you want to win, find a competition in which you are the only one in it. At first glance, this might sound like cheating or avoiding real challenges. But dig deeper, and you'll discover one of the most powerful principles for creating lasting success and genuine satisfaction in any area of life. Traditional competition operates on a zero-sum model. For you to win, someone else must lose. This creates an exhausting psychological dynamic where your sense of achievement depends entirely on other people's performance. If they improve, you feel worse about yourself. If they struggle, you feel artificially better. Your emotional state becomes a roller coaster controlled by factors completely outside your influence. But Epictetus understood something revolutionary. The most meaningful victories come from mastering yourself, not defeating others. When Lisa decides to compete only with her previous self, she enters a contest where the rules are entirely within her control, where progress is always possible, and where victory is determined by effort rather than genetic gifts or circumstances. Marcus Aurelius embodied this principle perfectly. As Emperor of Rome, he could have spent his energy trying to outshine previous rulers or comparing his military victories to other generals. Instead, his personal writings reveal a man focused exclusively on his own character development. He writes, "Confine yourself to the present, meaning focus on what you can control today, not on how you measure against others." Consider how this transforms Lisa's approach to fitness. Instead of worrying about logging more steps than her competitive coworker Jake, she focuses on walking more today than she did yesterday. Instead of comparing her lifting progress to the gym's strongest members, she celebrates increasing her weights by 5 pounds from last month. Instead of feeling discouraged by others' marathon times, she takes pride in jogging for 10 minutes without stopping when she could barely walk a mile 3 months ago. This shift creates what psychologists call mastery orientation versus performance orientation. Performance orientation makes you constantly anxious about how others perceive your abilities. Mastery orientation makes you excited about developing your own capabilities. The difference isn't just psychological, it's practical. People with mastery orientation stick with challenges longer, recover from setbacks faster, and experience more genuine satisfaction from their achievements. Seneca practiced this principle in his philosophical development. Rather than trying to be wiser than other philosophers, he focused on being wiser than he was the day before. This approach allowed him to make consistent progress without the mental drain of constant comparison. He understood that wisdom isn't about winning debates against others. It's about making better decisions than you made previously. The beauty of this approach is that it makes every day winnable. When you're competing with others, you can have a great day and still lose if they happen to have an even better day. But when you're competing with yourself, every small improvement is a victory worth celebrating. Lisa can win every single day simply by doing slightly more than yesterday or maintaining consistency when she would have previously given up. This doesn't mean avoiding all external challenges or never participating in group activities. Lisa might still join that corporate fitness challenge, but her internal scorecard remains focused on personal progress. Whether she finishes first or last in the company competition becomes irrelevant because she's playing a different game, one where success is measured by her own growth rather than relative ranking. The ancient Stoics applied this principle to every area of life. In their view, the only true competition was between your current self and your potential self. This created a sustainable source of motivation that didn't depend on other people's failures or circumstances beyond their control. Think about how this changes your relationship with social media. Instead of feeling inadequate when you see others' highlight reels, you focus on whether you're making progress in your own life. That impressive vacation photo your friend posted doesn't diminish your own weekend hike. That promotion announcement from a college classmate doesn't invalidate your own career progress. You're playing entirely different games, working toward different goals, with different starting points and obstacles. The practical application is straightforward but transformative. Choose one area where you've been trapped in external competition, maybe fitness, career advancement, social status, or creative pursuits. For the next month, completely ignore how others are performing in that area. Instead, establish clear metrics for your own progress. Track only your improvement over time. If it's fitness, measure whether you can do more today than last week. If it's professional development, focus on whether you're learning new skills or taking on more responsibility than you had 6 months ago. If it's creative work, ask whether your latest project shows growth from your previous attempt. This approach eliminates the biggest obstacles to sustained effort: discouragement from comparison and the anxiety of external judgment. When you know you can win every day simply by improving on yesterday's performance, motivation becomes self-generating. You're not waiting for perfect conditions or worried about other people's advantages. You're simply focused on the only thing that's actually within your control, your own effort and progress. Epictetus knew that true freedom comes from competing only in arenas where victory depends entirely on your own choices and actions. This isn't about lowering standards or avoiding challenges. It's about directing your competitive energy toward the one contest that actually matters, becoming the best version of yourself. The key takeaway here is that when you change the rules of competition from external comparison to internal growth, you transform from someone who occasionally wins into someone who wins consistently. Now that we have established the importance of internal competition and personal progress, we can consider how to structure your days for guaranteed success. 5. How morning movement sets you up for daily success. Suppose you're Maria, a project manager in Los Angeles, and your alarm goes off at 5:45 a.m. Your bed is comfortable, your room is perfectly temperature controlled, and you have a packed day ahead that starts with a difficult client meeting at 9 a.m. In this moment, you have two choices that will determine not just your physical health, but the quality of your entire day. You can hit snooze and scroll through your phone, or you can get up and move your body for 20 minutes before the world starts making demands on your time and energy. This decision point represents something the ancient Stoics understood better than perhaps any other philosophical school. Whoever controls the morning controls the day, and whoever controls the day controls their life. Marcus Aurelius, despite being the most powerful man in the ancient world with countless pressures and responsibilities, recognized that morning discipline was the foundation of everything else. In his personal journal, Marcus writes, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are like this because they can't tell good from evil. But I have seen the beauty of good and the ugliness of evil, and have recognized that the wrongdoer has a nature related to my own." Notice that he's not just setting mental intentions, he's preparing himself mentally through physical discipline first. The Romans had a saying, "Mens sana in corpore sano," a sound mind in a sound body. This wasn't just a nice phrase. It was practical wisdom about how the physical and mental are inseparably connected. When Maria chooses to get up and move her body first thing in the morning, she's not just exercising, she's practicing the fundamental Stoic principle of choosing what's beneficial over what's immediately comfortable. Here's what happens neurologically when you start your day with movement. Your brain releases endorphins, dopamine, and norepinephrine, natural chemicals that improve mood, focus, and stress resistance. But more importantly, from a Stoic perspective, you're proving to yourself that you can override immediate impulses in service of longer-term benefits. This mental muscle, once activated, stays strong throughout the day. Consider how this plays out in Maria's challenging client meeting. Because she started her day by choosing difficulty over comfort, she's already practiced the exact skill she needs when the client becomes unreasonable. The neural pathway for saying, "This is hard, but I'm going to do it anyway," is already activated. The mental strength she built by getting out of bed when she didn't want to becomes the same strength she uses to stay calm under pressure. Seneca understood this principle deeply. He wrote about the importance of premeditation of evils, mentally preparing for challenges before they arise. But he also practiced physical preparation by voluntarily exposing himself to cold, hunger, and physical discomfort in controlled ways. He built resilience for involuntary hardships. Morning movement serves the same purpose. It's voluntary stress that builds capacity for involuntary stress. The timing aspect is crucial here. Morning movement isn't just about fitting exercise into your schedule. It's about claiming ownership of your day before external demands take over. When you move your body first thing in the morning, you're making a statement. I decide how this day begins. I set the tone. I choose my priorities before the world chooses them for me. Think about how different Maria's day feels when she starts with 20 minutes of movement versus 20 minutes of scrolling social media. Movement generates energy, clarity, and confidence. Social media often generates anxiety, comparison, and scattered attention. The choice she makes in those first 20 minutes literally rewires her brain for the next 16 hours. Marcus Aurelius knew this from experience. Despite having advisors, generals, and officials all demanding his immediate attention, he protected his morning routine. He understood that those early moments of self-discipline created a foundation of mental strength that served him through military campaigns, political crises, and personal tragedies. But here's what makes this principle accessible to everyone. You don't need a perfect routine or ideal conditions. Maria doesn't need a home gym or expensive equipment. She can do jumping jacks in her living room, walk around her block, or do bodyweight exercises in her bedroom. The specific activity matters less than the act of choosing movement over stagnation, effort over ease. The ancient Stoics believed that how you do anything is how you do everything. When you start your day with discipline, that disciplined mindset carries forward. When you begin with procrastination or avoidance, that pattern tends to repeat throughout the day. Morning movement becomes a daily practice of choosing your better self over your immediate impulses. Epictetus, despite his physical limitations, emphasized that we must train ourselves to handle difficulty when we're strong, so we can handle it when we're weak. Morning movement serves this exact purpose. When you're fresh and rested, that's precisely when you should practice doing hard things, because life will inevitably present challenges when you're tired, stressed, or overwhelmed. The compound effect is remarkable. After a week of morning movement, Maria notices she's more decisive at work. After a month, she finds herself naturally choosing healthier foods throughout the day. After 3 months, she's become someone who instinctively chooses the more challenging but beneficial option in various situations. The morning movement wasn't just changing her fitness level, it was changing her character. This practice also creates what psychologists call decision fatigue resistance. Every decision we make throughout the day depletes our mental energy slightly. But when you start the day by successfully making a difficult choice, you're building rather than depleting that mental energy. You're proving to yourself that you can be trusted to make good decisions even when they're hard. The key is starting small and being consistent rather than starting big and burning out. Even 5 minutes of morning movement is infinitely better than 0 minutes. The Stoics understood that virtue is built through repeated practice, not through perfection. Seneca wrote, "Well-being is realized by small steps, but it's no small thing." Essentially, morning movement transforms from a fitness activity into a daily practice of self-mastery. It's your daily opportunity to prove that you can choose what's beneficial over what's merely comfortable, and that choice reverberates through everything else you do. This, in turn, leads to a deeper understanding of how physical activity unlocks not just physical benefits, but profound mental clarity and problem-solving abilities. 6. The surprising way physical activity solves mental problems. Let's say you're Thomas, a software engineer in Boston who's been stuck on a coding problem for 3 days straight. The solution feels just out of reach, and every approach he tries leads to another dead end. His deadline is approaching, his stress is mounting, and his usual problem-solving strategies aren't working. What Thomas doesn't realize is that the answer to his mental block might not come from staring at his screen harder, but from stepping away from it entirely and moving his body. This scenario reveals one of the most profound discoveries of both ancient Stoic philosophy and modern neuroscience. The mind and body aren't separate entities competing for your attention. They're integrated partners that solve problems together. When you engage your body in rhythmic, repetitive movement, you're not just exercising muscles. You're activating sophisticated neural networks that enhance creativity, clarity, and insight. Marcus Aurelius discovered this principle through direct experience. As both emperor and philosopher, he faced complex political, military, and ethical challenges that required innovative solutions. His personal writings reveal that some of his deepest insights came not while sitting in meetings or studying scrolls, but during long walks and physical training. He understood that moving meditation often produces breakthroughs that stationary thinking cannot achieve. The ancient Greeks had a word for this phenomenon, peripatetic, meaning walking around. Aristotle famously conducted his most important philosophical discussions while walking with his students. The Stoics adopted this practice because they recognized that gentle, rhythmic movement seems to unlock the mind's creative potential in ways that forced concentration often blocks. Here's what happens neurologically when Thomas steps away from his computer and goes for a walk. His brain shifts from focused attention to what researchers call the default mode network. This network, active during rest and light physical activity, is responsible for making unexpected connections between different pieces of information. It's literally the neural state most associated with aha moments and creative insights. Modern research has confirmed what the Stoics intuited. Moderate physical activity increases production of BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, a protein that promotes the growth of new neural connections. It also enhances blood flow to the prefrontal cortex, the brain region responsible for executive function and complex problem solving. But perhaps most importantly, movement reduces cortisol and activates the parasympathetic nervous system, creating the relaxed alertness that's optimal for insight. Consider Jennifer, a marketing director in Denver who was struggling to develop a campaign strategy for a difficult client. After days of brainstorming sessions and failed concepts, she decided to take a lunch hour hike in the nearby foothills. 20 minutes into her walk, while focused on nothing more complex than putting one foot in front of the other, the perfect campaign angle suddenly appeared in her mind. An approach so obvious she couldn't believe she'd missed it. This isn't a coincidence. It's how the integrated mind-body system is designed to work. Seneca understood this when he wrote about the importance of odium, leisure time that isn't idle but actively restorative. He recognized that the mind often works best when it appears to be doing nothing, especially when the body is engaged in gentle, rhythmic activity. The key is understanding the difference between active thinking and receptive awareness. When Thomas sits at his computer trying to force a solution, he's engaging what neuroscientists call task-positive networks, neural circuits designed for focused, analytical thinking. These networks are excellent for implementing known solutions but often miss creative alternatives because they're too narrowly focused. Walking, swimming, or other rhythmic activities activate different neural networks that excel at pattern recognition, memory consolidation, and making unexpected connections. This is why solutions often appear during showers, nature walks, or repetitive exercises. Your conscious mind relaxes its grip, allowing deeper wisdom to emerge. The ancient Stoics called this principle prosoche, a state of continuous attention that's relaxed rather than forced. Epictetus taught that true wisdom comes not from straining to think harder, but from learning to think more clearly. Physical movement, especially in natural settings, naturally cultivates this clarity. Marcus Aurelius wrote many of his most profound insights while on military campaigns, walking through various terrains across the Roman Empire. His journal entries reveal how physical movement through changing landscapes seemed to stimulate corresponding movements in his thinking. He writes, "Constantly regard the universe as one living being, having one substance and one soul. This integration principle extends beyond solving specific problems to general mental clarity and emotional regulation." When Lisa, a therapist in Miami, feels overwhelmed by her clients' difficult situations, she's learned that a 20-minute walk helps her process emotions and maintain professional boundaries. The gentle movement allows her nervous system to reset, creating space for wisdom and compassion rather than reactive stress. The practice becomes even more powerful when you approach it with intentional awareness. Instead of using movement time to listen to podcasts or plan your day, try moving in silence and allowing your mind to wander freely. Don't try to solve anything. Simply move your body and trust that your unconscious mind is working on whatever challenges you're facing. Thomas discovers that his best coding insights come during his evening runs, when he's not trying to solve anything at all. The repetitive motion and rhythmic breathing create a meditative state where elegant solutions spontaneously emerge. He's learned to keep a small notebook for capturing these insights, but he never forces the process. This approach transforms how you relate to mental challenges. Instead of seeing difficult problems as enemies to be defeated through sheer mental force, you begin to see them as invitations to engage your full intelligence, both conscious and unconscious, mental and physical. The solution isn't to think harder. It's to think differently, and movement facilitates that shift. Start experimenting with this principle today. The next time you're stuck on a problem, whether it's creative, analytical, or interpersonal, resist the urge to force a solution through more thinking. Instead, engage in 20 to 30 minutes of gentle movement. Walk outdoors if possible, swim, do yoga, or any rhythmic activity that doesn't require intense concentration. The key takeaway here is that your body isn't just a vessel for carrying your brain around. It's an integral part of your thinking system. When you move your body with intention and awareness, you're not taking a break from mental work. You're engaging in a different but equally valuable form of mental work. Clearly, then, this understanding of how small, consistent practices create profound changes leads us to our final principle about the transformative power of daily incremental progress. 7. Why small daily steps lead to incredible life changes. Set the scene. Rachel, a busy nurse in Chicago, looks at herself in the mirror one morning and feels overwhelmed. She wants to get healthier, build more energy for her demanding job, and feel confident in her own skin again. But when she thinks about all the changes she needs to make, overhauling her diet, joining a gym, creating a perfect workout routine, the mountain of effort feels impossible to climb. So she does what most people do. Nothing. She waits for the right time, when she'll have the motivation and energy to transform everything at once. What Rachel doesn't understand yet is that she's fallen into the most common trap that prevents lasting change: the all-or-nothing mindset. But the ancient Stoics discovered something revolutionary about human transformation that modern psychology has now confirmed. The most profound changes don't come from dramatic overhauls, but from barely noticeable daily improvements that compound over time. Seneca captured this wisdom perfectly when he wrote, "Well-being is realized by small steps, but it's no small thing." This wasn't just philosophical poetry. It was practical instruction based on a deep understanding of how humans actually change. The Stoics knew that sustainable transformation happens through what they called prohairesis, the power of choice exercised consistently in small moments. Consider what happens when Rachel shifts her approach. Instead of planning a complete life transformation, she decides to add just one push-up to her morning routine. One push-up. It seems almost ridiculous in its simplicity. But that single push-up, done consistently every day, creates something far more valuable than muscle strength. It builds the neural pathway for keeping promises to herself. Marcus Aurelius understood this principle intimately. Despite being emperor of the most powerful empire in history, his personal journal reveals a man focused on tiny daily improvements rather than grand gestures. He writes, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This strength isn't built through occasional heroic efforts, but through consistent small choices that align with your values." Here's the science behind why small steps work so powerfully. Your brain is designed to resist dramatic changes because they feel threatening to your survival system. When you attempt massive transformations, your amygdala, the brain's alarm system, interprets this as danger and floods you with stress hormones that make you want to return to familiar patterns. But small changes slip under this radar, allowing new habits to take root without triggering resistance. After 1 week of doing her single push-up, Rachel notices something interesting. The physical improvement is minimal, but something more important has happened. She's proven to herself that she can be trusted to do what she says she'll do. This self-trust becomes the foundation for everything else. In week 2, she naturally wants to do 2 push-ups. By month 3, she's doing 10 push-ups and has added a short walk to her routine, not because she forced herself, but because her identity has gradually shifted. The ancient Stoics called this ascesis, spiritual exercise through small, repeated practices. Epictetus taught that freedom comes not from changing your circumstances, but from changing your responses, one choice at a time. He understood that character is built through countless tiny decisions that seem insignificant in isolation but create profound transformation over time. This principle works because it leverages what psychologists call identity-based change. Instead of focusing on outcomes, losing weight, getting fit, feeling better, small daily steps focus on identity, becoming the type of person who moves their body every day. Rachel isn't trying to achieve perfect fitness. She's practicing being someone who honors commitments to herself. The physical benefits become a natural byproduct of this identity shift. Think about how this applies beyond physical activity. James, a teacher in Seattle, wanted to become more patient with difficult students. Instead of trying to completely overhaul his classroom management style, he committed to taking one deep breath before responding to disruptive behavior. That single breath, practiced consistently, gradually rewired his automatic reactions and transformed his teaching approach. The compounding effect is remarkable. Small improvements don't add up linearly, they multiply exponentially. When Rachel builds the habit of daily movement, she naturally starts making better food choices because they align with her emerging identity. Better nutrition gives her more energy, which makes movement easier, which builds confidence, which improves her work performance, which reduces stress, which improves her sleep, which enhances recovery and motivation. One small change creates a positive feedback loop that transforms multiple areas simultaneously. Seneca demonstrated this principle throughout his life. Rather than attempting to become wise all at once, he committed to reflecting on his day every evening, examining his choices and learning from mistakes. This simple practice, maintained for decades, helped him become one of history's most influential philosophers. He writes, "When the light has been removed and my wife has fallen silent, I examine the whole day and go back over what I've done and said, hiding nothing from myself, passing nothing by." The key insight is that transformation isn't about finding the perfect moment or having unlimited willpower. It's about designing systems that make good choices easier and more automatic. Rachel's single push-up works because it requires no special equipment, takes less than 10 seconds, and can be done regardless of her mood, schedule, or energy level. This approach eliminates the perfectionism trap that derails most change attempts. With traditional goal setting, missing one day feels like failure and often leads to giving up entirely. But with small daily steps, consistency matters more than perfection. If Rachel misses a day, she simply does her push-ups the next day without drama or self-judgment. The ancient Stoics understood that virtue is developed through practice, not through perfect performance. Marcus Aurelius didn't become a great leader through one heroic decision, but through thousands of small choices to act with wisdom, justice, and integrity. Each choice reinforced his character and made the next good choice more natural. Start by identifying one tiny behavior that aligns with who you want to become. Make it so small that you can't fail 1 minute of movement, 1 page of reading, 1 moment of gratitude. Focus on consistency over intensity. Trust that small, repeated actions will gradually reshape your identity and transform your life from the inside out. Therefore, the most profound truth about human transformation is this: you don't need to change everything at once to change everything eventually. Small daily steps, maintained with patience and consistency, create changes so incredible they seem impossible until they become inevitable. Your path forward, ancient wisdom for modern strength. Throughout our journey today, we've discovered that the ancient Stoics weren't just philosophers sitting in libraries. They were practical guides who understood that true wisdom comes through action, especially the action of training your body to strengthen your mind. We've seen how one simple daily action creates lifelong resilience, transforming ordinary people like Sarah in Chicago into individuals who can handle whatever life presents. We've learned that the amazing thing that happens when you push through discomfort isn't just physical improvement. It's the development of unshakable mental toughness that serves you in every challenging situation. The wisdom of focusing on your own progress rather than comparing yourself to others has shown us how David discovered true peace and sustainable motivation. We've explored the smart way to compete that guarantees you always win by making yourself your only real competition. Maria's story illustrated how morning movement sets the foundation for daily success, while Thomas learned that physical activity unlocks mental clarity and creative problem-solving in ways that pure thinking cannot achieve. Finally, Rachel's transformation through small daily steps proved that incredible life changes don't require dramatic overhauls. They emerge naturally from consistent, tiny improvements that compound over time. The thread connecting all these stories is a simple but profound truth. Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus weren't teaching abstract philosophy. They were sharing practical tools for building the kind of character that allows you to thrive in an unpredictable world. Every time you choose movement over stagnation, effort over ease, your own path over others' expectations, you're practicing the same principles that guided these ancient masters through their own challenges. The beauty of this approach is its accessibility. You don't need perfect conditions, expensive equipment, or unlimited time. You need only the willingness to take one small step today. Whether it's a morning walk, a few push-ups, climbing stairs instead of taking the elevator, or simply standing up and stretching right now as you watch this video. Your transformation begins with a single choice, made consistently, one day at a time. The ancient Stoics understood that strength isn't built in moments of comfort, but in the space between wanting to quit and actually quitting. That space is where character lives, where resilience grows, and where ordinary people discover their extraordinary potential. The path forward is clear. Start small, stay consistent, focus on your own progress, and trust that ancient wisdom combined with daily action will create changes that seemed impossible just months ago. If this video has inspired you to begin your own journey of building mental strength through physical practice, I encourage you to subscribe to Stoic Vivu for more practical wisdom that transforms ancient philosophy into modern strength. Like this video if it provided value, and share it with someone who might benefit from discovering how movement can transform their mind. Your support helps us continue bringing these timeless teachings to people who need them most. Remember, the Stoics believed that philosophy without action is worthless. Today, you have everything you need to begin. The only question is, will you take that first step?